my God, a unicorn.
I know, isn't it so cute?
No, Sasha, we're not talking about that unicorn. We're talking about this unicorn. This is a 2025 BMW 550e. Now, what's interesting is in the G60 Generation 5 series, we lost the M550, so the only way to get a V8 is the M5. But they sell about 1,000 of these in the US every year. So for some sales data, that's about 3 times less than the amount of Lamborghinis sold every year in the US. So that's kind of how rare these BMW 550es are. What's interesting though is the 530e is no longer sold in the US, so now if you want to plug in a hybrid 5 Series, the only way you can get it is with a B58 under the hood. Total system horsepower, 483, 516 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds. It's only about 0.3 seconds slower than the M550 that this is the spiritual replacement for. But what's interesting is with a 19.4 kilowatt hour battery, you're still able to achieve anywhere between 33 to almost 50 miles of electric driving range. So it's incredibly efficient while still being powerful. And considering how rare this car is, that's what makes it a unicorn in BMW's lineup. And I'm really excited to talk to you all about this particular car right here behind me. Who is this car for? Who's gonna wanna buy a 550e? This is a car that splits the difference between performance and luxury very well. This drives much more closely to an i5 eDrive 40 or a 540i than it does an M5, despite the fact that, I mean, when you look at the horsepower figures, 500 horsepower is still basically 500 horsepower. That's still plenty of power. So, what I'm finding is that this car is for like the ultimate pragmatic person that kind of wants a sleeper. That's what this is. This car is a sleeper. You would never know something that is this efficient and pragmatic also delivers such a high envelope of performance, which I think is really cool. There's someone who they don't want to shout that they're in something quick. They're not looking for something that is necessarily something, it's very, doesn't show off. It's not as kind of boisterous or obnoxious as an M5 is with, you know, all the widened hips and body lines and color options and everything that the M5 comes with. This really does fly under the radar. This looks very much like a 530 or 540i. You would never notice the difference that this is something that's actually really quite a bit quicker. The speed is one thing, the power is great, but in reality, on a day-to-day basis, you're going to be more worried about efficiency and comfort. And those are two things that this car excels at exceedingly well. So I've now had this car for about a week. I got to give it back tomorrow. Now, I've driven this car for 836 miles. I've done a couple longer distance road trips in this. I did a 190-mile round trip to just outside San Diego one day with this. And then I've had a couple days where I've done like 150 miles total. So I wasn't always able to plug in everywhere I went. But I did have some days where I did like 95% of my driving in all electric too. So I've got a good feel about what this is like on kind of your commute and road trips. Long story short, I have averaged 61 MPG. So that's without even trying. The level 2 charging network is really good nowadays. So most major cities, it's really easy, pretty much almost anywhere you go. Most shopping centers, big parking structures, kind of tourist destinations, hotels, you name it, usually have some kind of at least like a level 2 charger or like multiple that are located there. A lot of apartment complexes have them, you name it, they're there. So the reason that I'm mentioning all of that is because this thing is very easy to just plug in whenever you get a chance. And because it has so long of an electric range to begin with, if you make any attempt at plugging this in throughout the day, whether it's at your office or when you get home, you can very easily do pretty much 100% of your driving on all electric. And then this thing just drives like an i5. It's got more than enough power in all electric mode for just your regular commuting around town. I've gotten on one day, again, through traffic, so I was moving a little bit slow, so maybe you can consider that hypermiling if you want to. I got 53.2 miles of electric range out of this before it went to empty. And then because of regenerative braking after that, when I still had a few more miles left on my commute, I did like another mile on electric. So I actually did like 54 miles on electric driving on a 59-mile commute. I mean, that's incredibly impressive. Again, 54 miles on all electric, and I've just hit below 1/4 of a tank. So I've used 3/4 of a tank in 840 miles. There are some small downsides when it comes to plug-in hybrids. Again, they're the worst when it comes to packaging because you now have to fit a battery, the addition of the electric motor. Although, one cool thing, because the electric motor is incorporated within the ZF 8-speed transmission, it doesn't actually add that much weight and bulk itself. It's really the battery that's adding a lot of that weight and bulk. So just something to note there. Lo and behold, all that packaging for all that kind of eats up in trunk space a little bit. It's not the end of the world. There's a couple small cubby holes that you can fit a couple things in there if you want. But just know that when you do get a plug-in hybrid, you're just eating up a little bit more of that trunk space than you would, say, in a regular combustion car or the electric car. This particular car, in the way that it's spec'd, it's about $85,400. Comes with the executive package, the dynamic handling package, which has 4-wheel steer, and the adaptive air suspension. Because of that, I would say if you're going to get one of these, or you're either shopping for one or you're going to spec one, get that dynamic handling package. The 4-wheel steering comes in handy, like so much more than you would really expect. Because again, this is a little bit of a larger car. Maneuvering this thing around parking garages, you know, if you need to make a U-turn on a smaller street, I've found I can turn around on like your average street without needing to back up and make a second turn. Like I can just make it a 1-point turn, doesn't need to be a 3-point turn. And on top of that, with this air suspension, it is so comfortable, like I said. I think of all the cars that I've driven from BMW this year, the iX is probably still the most comfortable. This is a very close second. When it comes to some of the other BMW tech on here, again, that's great. Driver's assistance professional package on this car. I love that. It is so nice when I'm just sitting here, chilling out on the highway in traffic, that I have the ability to just be able to take my hands off the wheel, focus on traffic, and then the car just kind of handles the rest, and it does it really well. Some other driver's assistance systems tend to ping pong a little bit, or instead of it keeping you directly in the center of the lane, sometimes it can swerve you side to side. It's always kind of trying to find a happy medium, and it's not really good at just staying direct and consistent. This is much more consistent. Sometimes when it comes to the adaptive cruise control and the following distance between you and the car in front of you, some systems are a little bit more aggressive than others. This, if someone cuts me off, it doesn't slam on the brakes. It does a really good job at just gradually reducing my speed and then getting that set distance back to where it was before. Or if a car moves out of my lane, again, it does a pretty good job at gradually and smoothly accelerating back up to whatever I have my speed limit set at. So, driver's assistance professional package, awesome. Are there complaints? Yes, I've got a couple complaints. Like I was talking about following distance on driver's assistance professional package. On previous BMW steering wheels, there was a button that you could press to increase or decrease the following distance between you and the car in front of you, based on, you know, whether you're on the interstate, where there's not a lot of traffic and you might want more following distance because you don't want to be tailgating someone. Or again, if you're in LA traffic, you kind of want to be a little bit closer in following distance so not everyone is cutting you off all the time. That is gone off the steering wheel. I have to jump through about 4 different menus to be able to change that. When it comes to trip computer, there also used to be a trip computer button right here on the turnstock. They got rid of that. I don't know why. A lot of people have complained about the interior of the 5 Series. I don't get it. I actually really like it. It's very functional. It's very ergonomic. Everything feels good. Like I said, there's some of the ergonomics when it comes to touchscreen stuff, yeah, I don't like. But in terms of like the actual seating position, armrest, where the cup holders are, where everything lays at your hands, that's great. I love that. I really do like the design. The ambient lighting in this car is so nice when you're driving at night. Driving performance, I haven't really pushed this car too hard. Like I said, I drove this car like most people are gonna drive one of these. I didn't take this up to Angeles Crest Highway. I don't think people are gonna be taking their 4,900 pound plug-in hybrids canyon carving. This is just not the car for it. This particular spec, it's Alpine White. This does have the driver's assistance professional package, so we do see, again, that large sensor here right in the center of the grille. BMW badge does have the blue outer rim of the emblem basically outlined in blue. That's letting you know that it's a plug-in hybrid. They've done that on a lot of their plug-in hybrids in the past. This car does come with the 939M wheel option. There's a couple different wheels on option for the 550e. Now, what's interesting is these are 245/40R are 20 in the front, but in the rear they're actually 275. So these tires are actually quite a bit larger than, again, some you would find on like a 530i. Shadowline package with your black window surround. And when you get to the rear, the only thing that's going to differentiate it from letting you know that this is a 550e versus anything else in the 5 Series lineup, pretty much just the badge, and then again we see that blue surround on the BMW emblem. But that's pretty much it. It's a very pedestrian looking sleeper type car. So I'm just gonna run over real briefly a little bit more about the interior of this car, and then also I want to show you some interesting stuff with the trip data when it comes to a plug-in hybrid, and some stuff I like and stuff I don't like. Now, overall, I really like the G60 Generation 5 Series interior. I know a lot of people have complained about it. They say some of the materials seem a little bit cheaper. Overall, I think the interior here is really nice. This particular aluminum trim I don't think would be my top choice. I prefer the carbon fiber trim, even if it's not a true M car, just because of the look of it, and it's quite a bit less reflective. This, when the sun hits it, it can kind of hit you in the face, and it's really bright. Same with this crystal shifter down here. It looks great when it's clean and everything like that, but in direct sunlight, it can actually kind of blind you a little bit. There's quite a bit of piano black plastic that they put around a lot of the controls that you're going to touch every time you use this car. So pretty much the surround for everything on the center console, you need to bring a microfiber cloth that I actually keep here in the center console, that I'm always wiping this down, because otherwise it gets fingerprints everywhere. It looks dirty very quickly, and it scratches very easily. I do wish BMW would replace all the piano black plastic with something that was a little bit more durable and didn't get so dirty so easily. I'm not a fan of piano black plastic whatsoever. One other interesting thing is that BMW started to take away some buttons that in the past used to exist. For example, right now, the current generation G23 series, on the turn signal stalk, it actually had a button for not only for your high beam control, but also for your trip computer. So if you wanted to reset your trip computer, or also reset the trip data and go through your different options, you could do that just right there on the physical button on your turn signal stalk. That no longer exists. They've taken that away, and you now have to dig through a couple menus on the touchscreen. I'm not a fan of that. I do wish they would bring that back. If you want to change the direction of the airflow, it's now controlled down here. And I get they were trying to do something that maybe looked interesting and was new, but in reality, it's really hard to be able to actually, while you're driving, move this to get the airflow to where you want. I do miss the old way of doing it, where there was actually like a little toggle. So I think they just overcomplicated things. Also, I feel like this was kind of a waste of space, and they only have a couple buttons here, whereas if they had physical buttons like an iDrive 7, they could have the full HVAC controls here instead of buried in the touchscreen. And so this is mostly your standard iDrive 8.5, but what I wanted to show you is what's different about the 550e, since it's a plug-in hybrid as compared to, again, either your i5 or your, typical gas combustion 5 Series. So what you'll notice, again, when you go into My Modes, again, you have your pretty typical personal sport, efficient, expressive. That doesn't change, but what will change is if you want to make any changes to the plug-in hybrid system, if you want to change between driving in electric or a combination of the both, or if you want to force on the gas motor, you go through the drivetrain and chassis settings here. I just ran out of electric battery, but what I could do is I could activate or deactivate electric driving from here. It may not automatically shut off electric driving right away. Sometimes it will wait for a better opportunity for the gas engine to turn on. But if you do want to force the car to be able to hold the battery charge that it currently has and drive on just using the B58, what you can do is you can go here, hit maintain battery charge, hit activate once. That's going to turn on your gas combustion engine, and it's going to rely on that. So that'll help maintain your charge, and then as you brake through regenerative braking, you'll slowly actually begin to regain a little bit of charge and a little bit of range. Again, there's a couple other different settings here. When you go into electric driving, this setting here for electric automatically, it'll start the car on as electric and basically run it in electric as much as it can until you run out of battery. And again, if I wanted to turn on the electric motor, if I did have any charge at this point, I could turn it on there as well. Maintain battery charge, as we talked about. Iconic sounds when you're driving an electric, you can turn that on and off here. And then you have adaptive recuperation. So that basically changes the amount of regen you have based on your speed, your driving, and then what driving mode you're in. Basically just kind of help you maximize the amount of battery regen that you're getting from braking. Charging is another, there's a couple different settings that we have in here. So again, you have it so that it'll automatically charge as soon as it's plugged in. Otherwise, you can set, like, say, a departure time, so that way your car's not sitting at 100% charge for too long. It's better for the battery health if you do this, but realistically, if you don't always know when you're going to get a chance to charge or when you're going to leave, you might not set it. But again, if you're commuting and you leave typically at the same time every day, that's something that you might want to set up for when you're charging overnight at your home. You do have an AC limit here, so again, depending on what type of outlet you have at your home, if for whatever reason you feel like it's better for your battery health to limit your charge, 48 amp is max. That's going to be your 11 kilowatt hour charging speed if you have a charger that does have a 48 amp circuit. Or again, if I want to limit it to, say, a 40 amp circuit, which is actually what my garage has, I could limit it there, but realistically, most people are just going to leave it maxed out at 40. Most of your public chargers that you're going to see in public are going to be your 32 amp. That's going to be like a 6 kilowatt hour charging speed. But that's nice that you do have some optionality there if you're worried about maintaining your battery health. In addition to that, when it comes to your charging target, you can change that as well. If you feel like in order to maintain battery health, you don't want to charge to 100% every time, you can always limit that down to, say, 90 or 80%. But it is important to remember that BMW does already have a buffer built in. Remember, it's 19.4 kilowatt hour usable, but the actual total gross size of the battery is 22.1. So there's already a buffer built in. I feel like if you want to maximize using your plug-in hybrid, you could probably leave it close to 100% for a while, maybe 95% if you're a little bit concerned. But if you plan on owning this car for maybe, say, like 10 years, that's something you can change there. Again, this is a setting here if you want to be able to lock or unlock the charging cable whenever you're done charging, or if you want to leave it so that it maintains it being locked into the charger when you walk away. That's just to prevent people from being able to just rip out your charger if you lock the car and walk away. So I've driven 30 miles and it's still showing about 32% battery and 14 miles of range left. So once again, I'm going to get like 44 miles of electric range out of this car. I'm blowing past what it says. For $85,000, is it a good buy? Well, your running costs are probably going to be a lot less due to all the cost savings when it comes to fuel. And on top of that, you're probably not going to drop in price quite as quickly as pure electric cars like the i5, i4, and iX have. So, yeah, guys, 550e, verdict, I love it. This is such a good car. It is slept on, and because these things are so rare, it's kind of a unicorn. It's really cool. Yeah, I absolutely love this thing.